Alright guys, what's up? This is Ryan from Elevate Security, and in the next few videos we're going to be covering exploiting web applications. And this is something that is a huge topic on the OSCP, and even just, I would say, doing pen testing in general. It's a whole new set of things that you need to be aware of and things you need to look for. So I'm going to be trying to cover a bunch of the really common ones especially, and maybe a few of the more obscure ones as well when it comes to web app based vulnerabilities. Now, in this video in particular, we're going to be really covering Burp Suite, which is a tool that is extremely helpful for testers that are, looking for these kind of vulnerabilities. Now, to help you guys along, I'm going to be doing this with the community edition, essentially the free edition of Burp Suite. There's also a professional edition, which is the one that I use on the job. Our company has license for it, and even in my previous job we had a license for it as well. And most likely, if you get a job as a pen tester, you'll probably have the pro licenses as well. Without getting too far in the weeds with it, I'll just say that the pro edition has the community edition has certain disadvantages. Basically, things are throttled and you don't have access to other features. So particularly when you try to do the brute forcing, they're going to throttle the speed on it really slow in the Intruder. I can kind of demonstrate that. And you won't have access to certain tools like their engagement tools, the generate CSRF, the SSRF type of findings that you can use as well. They won't have a lot of those functionalities, but one thing I will say is for every functionality that you don't have access to or you're throttled with in the community edition, you can do it through other means, like maybe you use some other command line utilities like wfuzz instead of the Intruder. Maybe you use OWASP to do some of the things that you're limited to in the community edition. But I wanted this to be really easy for you guys to follow along. When I go for OSCP, I'm going to be working with the community edition because with the actual Kali box that offensive security gives you, you only have the community edition anyways. And it's more than enough to get us through with what we need. So yeah, without any further rambling, let's just go here. I have a box. One of the Hack the Box ones that I'm going to sort of showcase for this. This is the Karen or DevOps it is DevOps, right? Yeah, the DevOps box here. And after we did our basic Nmap scan, we see that there is a server running on port 5000. So let's start up Burp, and then we will go right into that. So that's basically how you'd start Burp Suite from your Kali box. You just go up here, and in the search box, you just type in Burp. You can get it pretty quickly to come up. And I believe this is the first time that I use Burp on this box, so there's some setting up that I'll need to do, and I'll show you. You just click through this, you start it up. It's the community edition here, as I was mentioning earlier. And I'm just going to sort of step through some of the stuff here. See, here's a pro version only. You can have it do some actual vulnerability scanning for you. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the intercept off for right now. Basically what that does is every time you visit a page, it'll show you the request, and you can change the parameters before it actually sends it to the server. Because the way Burp Suite works is it's actually sitting as a middleman in between you as the user and the server, right? It's sitting between your browser and the server. So you can basically intercept all the requests and responses before they go to you or the server, and you can tweak parameters. Really good for getting around front-end validation. But now let's fire up the web browser, and we're just going to go ahead and go to that server that's running there and see what is going on. But before we do that, I downloaded this extension called Foxy Proxy. It's going to allow me to more quickly proxy the traffic, because the way this works, I guess I'll show you the initial setup, right? Just download Foxy Proxy if you're using Firefox. It's a Firefox extension. If you're using Chrome, there's a Chrome extension. Once you do that, you want to set up a proxy in Foxy Proxy for your local host on port 8080. I titled it Burp, so I know what it corresponds to. Now, the reason you do that is because, like I said, the Burp Suite is sitting there as a middleman proxy. So by default, it will be listening on port 8080. That is just the default Burp port. And if I can find it here, I could show you. But essentially, yeah, here we go, right here. So by default, this is where it runs. Of course, you can change that. You can edit it, add different ones as well. But this is what it's automatically listening on. So you just set it up like that. And right now, see how it shows this X here, this circle with the line through it? That means it's disabled right now. I'm going to enable it by clicking here. So now our traffic is being proxied through Burp. So if I go here, port 5000. So now if we go to Burp, what we'll see is that under the proxy tab, HTTP history, we can see all of our traffic to this server. And right out of the gate, we would need to find some subdirectories. So let's go ahead and get that going in the background. You know, like I say all the time on this channel, you want to have your recon going on in the background constantly. So let me follow my own principles here. And so we'll create this one. We'll call it GoBuster, because we're going to do a GoBuster directory enumeration on this right now, subdirectory enumeration. So if I run GoBuster, which is a tool that you can get by doing sudo apt-get install GoBuster, I'm going to be using the word list. I'm going to do it in directory mode. We want to brute force subdirectories on this site because we don't know. There doesn't appear to be any links, any hyperlinks from here we can go around on the site. So we need to find what other pages are available here. So the word list that I like to use a lot for these is in the user share word list directory list, or actually, I think it was word list with dirbuster, right? User share word list. Dirbuster directory list. And I just kind of remember this because I've used this one so many times on these CTFs and whatnot. And I'm going to say -u, and I'm going to give it this thing here. And we will output it to a file, subdirectories. Let's put that back one directory. I don't want it in my mmap directory. So that's going to go ahead and run. And while that's running, and there's a /feed apparently, while that's running, let's go back to Burp, because I want the focus of this video as much as possible to be on Burp. One thing that we can do, I believe, is we right click here, we can actually spider the host and see if we can find any subdirectories that way. Yeah, so I think normally we would need a folder to show up here in order to spider it. And in this case, it didn't find anything off of that. Maybe if since we know the feed exists, let's try that, see what's there. And I think this is just an image, like the image of what was on that first page. So let's see. And while we're at it, we'll see what this found. Okay, there's a /upload. That could potentially be something good. So yeah, as you browse around, one thing you'll notice about the sitemap is as you browse around, it's building that information of the structure of the server, where the folders and files are on it. So maybe this wasn't the best website to showcase this particular feature of Burp, but if there were a bunch of different directories and subdirectories, files, folders, that would all get built out here, and you'd be able to see at a glance pretty nicely. But here we see all this stuff here. Now, just sort of stepping through here, this area is really good too, because we can see the requests we make. So for example, here we can upload XML files. If I just create like a test file, we can go ahead and do that. I'll just go ahead and stop this for now. We shouldn't need it anymore for the sake of demonstration here. But let's see. Let's go back and into here. I'm going to create test.text, and I'll just say this is a test. And we'll upload this, and we'll see that. Should see that we have that there then. So I'm just going to go ahead and browse to where I had that, where I created that. And when I upload it, I should see as well those requests coming through here. So yeah, there's the actual content of our XML file. Now, one of the really great things, with Burp, basically what you're seeing here, every time you're on a website, I mean, I want to make this accessible for beginners, right? I've said that from the beginning. Basically, anytime that you're making requests, like a lot of people, they don't know anything about really request response, but that's the way that the web servers, like the actual internet works, right? I have this front end here, which is like what the site looks like and feels like to the user, to me, the user. But every time I'm clicking these buttons and I'm doing things on the site, I'm going to different pages, maybe I'm using some certain functionality like uploading stuff. What's going on in the background are there's HTTP requests that are being sent to the server to request something, and then the server is responding with an HTTP response. Now, what Burp Suite allows us to do is it allows us to not only to edit that, but we can also see that. We can see, okay, so like when I uploaded this file just a second ago, what actually happened was I was, in the background, my web browser was sending an HTTP post request to this upload endpoint, and I was providing this file here with the content. And then in turn, it responded with a 200 code, which means it accepted it, and it responded with this page here, right? The page that we're seeing now. That's what it sent back in response. So that's how the web actually works. So what we can do with this, we can actually send this to the repeater, and we can edit this file essentially. So what I did, I used a shortcut. Really, I probably shouldn't have, to show you guys. I did Control-R, which automatically will send to repeater. Alternatively, I could right-click here and send it to repeater that way. What the repeater allows us to do is, as the name suggests, it allows us to repeat requests. So I can go ahead and send this again, and maybe it will reject it because we already uploaded this particular file. But one thing we might want to do then, I wonder, yeah, it looks like it's hanging here for whatever reason. But okay, this tells us that these are the 3 XML elements that it's expecting. So just one practical way, I'm not going to just go and exploit this box right now because I want to keep the focus, like I said, on Burp. Maybe we'll do this box later on in the future. But what the repeater will allow us to do is say I could change the content that was in that file. I could add these. I could do like I can call this like I can start adding these fields in here, right? Instead, and like make it valid. Man, I cannot type right now, but I could put like valid XML. So that's one thing that I could do, and it looks like this is hanging for some reason, but I was just kind of showcasing the functionality here, right? So I can edit this request, I can type, whatever I want in the request, and I can resend it. And in terms of this box, though, it's actually the way you can actually exploit this with XML external entities injection, which is something that I'm going to cover. Stay tuned on this channel. I want to keep this basic enough, but I can change it, and I can change the content and send it and just keep changing it and resending it, changing and resending it. This is a super useful functionality of Burp Suite because you can actually, like on the fly, like if I imagine I couldn't do this, right? I would literally have to go in, into Vim, change the file, re-upload it, and observe a different response. This allows us to very quickly tweak things on the fly, resend things on the fly. So super handy. And you can just come right off of, like I was showing you, you can just come right off of any of these requests, Control R, send it to repeater, and you can resend, replay any of the requests, change parameters, replay it again. That's one of the parts of Burp that I use the most for sure. Now the Intruder, this is how you would actually fuzz things, and with the Community Edition you are heavily throttled here. But I just want to explain to you how it kind of works, showcase how it works. So if I were to go to, say, okay, I'm doing Control I here, but you can right click, send to Intruder as well. I see the request. Maybe this wasn't the best. There's not many parameters in here to really show anything. Let's see. Let's send this one instead. So here, right? Say this was where I wanted to fuzz, right? If a bunch of things were selected, I would just clear them out. You know, I'll just show you there. I cleared it out. Now, I want to add something. Okay, I don't want to add the whole thing. So what I want to do, let's say I want to add just this. So I highlight what I want to add, and then I hit this to add it. So this means that this is the area where we're going to be fuzzing. And fuzzing just means we're going to be putting a bunch of different values in place of this value, seeing how it responds differently if there might be any kind of vulnerability there. So now if we go over to payloads, here's where we can put our payloads. We can actually load in entire wordless payloads. So we can do the secless thing that we installed before. I believe I have that on this box. In fact, let's just see really quickly. So yeah, I could use the secless here. I could go to fuzzing, and I could look for, it depends on what you're looking for, right? Like let's say that we were trying to fuzz for some like cross-site scripting, then I could just straight up do this and import a whole entire list of payloads. And then from here, there's little options that you probably won't need to tweak, but if you need to fine-tune stuff, you can do that here. But once you're ready, you just say start attack, and it's just going to let us know that we're going to be throttled basically. And so see, it'll go fast at first, and then it'll really slow down because you're throttled. But this is really nice because you can see, okay, you can sort it. Which one gave me a 200 okay? Which one gave me 400, meaning, you know, it failed. And what was the length of the response? Do any of them have vastly different lengths? That could indicate, okay, there was a different response here. Let me go. Then you can drill down into that one. Well, what did it actually look like? What did the request look like? What did the response look like? Okay, it was a bad request. This one wasn't good, right? Maybe something catches your eye. Oh, a really long, lengthy response. Let me see what it was. Oh, okay, like let's just pretend this was a 200. Okay, this one actually worked. Did cross-site scripting payload actually trigger a pop-up or whatever? Whatever the payload was set to do? I don't know. Let's go ahead and request this in browser, and we'll make this request, and we'll see if there was anything crazy that happened, right? Well, let's just see. But yeah, it should, it's kind of hanging here, but it should actually make that request, and we'll see the response. If it was a failed request, it might, you know, not do that, obviously, as these are all failing here. Let's go to, see, I can sort. Here, there was nothing put in as a payload, so, but just to showcase this, right? Request, copy the link. And yeah, I get this page because it was a 200 okay, and this was the response, right? If we go back, we see the response was, you know, this here. So we can quickly replay it and actually see, okay, did our payload trigger anything? Did it work? So that's just an example of how you use the Intruder. Pretty nice feature. You can do the same thing in OWASP. You can use a command line utility called wfuzz, essentially being able to do the same thing. Now, I don't want this video to get too much longer than this. There's some more features I don't really use much. Decoder is good. You can put in like anything URL encoded, or here, I'll just showcase this one last thing, right? Let's just say that we take something here and let's just encode this into, we'll base 64 encode this, right? So let's say you saw something like this in your request, right? You could copy it. Like, you say you didn't know what this corresponded to because it's base 64 encoded, right? You could just send it to the decoder. You could even say, imagine you don't even know that, you can't even recognize this is base 64. I can tell because I've seen stuff like this a lot. You can do the smart decode and it'll try to guess what it is. Well, usually it's able to guess, but maybe in this case it wasn't able to guess it for some reason. But normally you can smart decode and it'll be able to tell for you. But yeah, obviously if you know what it is, you can put it in. In this case, we know it's base 64. We decode it, and okay, here's what it is. Also, you can encode things, so we can like base 64 encode it back into that, or we can even put it in like say URL encoding if we need to something URL encoded. But if we need to do something like that, we can also encode stuff quickly like I did here. Right click, highlight it, right click it, and convert selection. Here you can encode or decode things quickly as well. So we can URL encode if we want all characters or key characters. And so yeah, pretty handy way to do that. There's some shortcuts too, like Control U for URL encode, I believe. So yeah, there's different ways to do that stuff. Well, here, if we're on the repeater, that would be better. A better way to showcase it, right? So here, we'll just say we want to URL encode this. This is a more practical way. I'll just end with this. Say we want to URL encode all characters. Boom. Yeah, just like that. So that's just one way we can do it. Control U does it. Control Shift U goes back. And yeah, didn't want this to be as long as it was, but I hope this was of help to you guys. And going forward here, we're going to be really diving into a lot of specific vulnerabilities of web applications and different tools that I use for enumerating the web applications, looking for vulnerabilities. I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on this because these web app vulnerabilities are a huge part of being successful on the OSCP, which I really want you guys to be. As well as myself, of course. So yeah, best of luck to all you guys studying for the OSCP, or if you're interested, subscribe and like, and stay tuned for more content of this nature. I will see you in the next one.